All right, I'm on hole number 4 of the 2019 Christmas tournament. If you watched hole number 3, I went back and watched that video, and wow, that was the worst win mistake that I've made in forever. I mean, I'm really good at the wind ring method, and I can't believe I did that. But I was able to recover and pick up my birdie, so whew, I dodged that bullet. I was like Neo, dodging bullets. All right, we're on hole number 4. So let's talk about hole number 4. So in the practice round with my upper developed clubs, I came out here and the goal is to get into this area right here. And it is a little bit difficult if you've got an extra mile because of the curl to try and come out here, because my goal is not to pinch up here, but to come out here and then use curl to open up the fairway so that when you come into the fairway, you're right down the middle instead of trying to come out here where you're trying to weave and bob it. And it's kind of difficult with an extra mile because of its curl. But if you got an upper, like if you got an extra mile 9 or if you got an apocalypse like 3 or 4, you can get this shot out here done because they've got curl and they've got topspin enough for you to bridge this gap. But with lower developed stuff in the qualifying round, in my lower developed account, in practice, I came out here with a Marlin and a QB, and every single time I got this hole, I was here in 1. Doesn't matter if you hit a 2-ring great to the left or the right. You got a 100% accurate club. You can end up out here in the middle of the fairway, and you're up in 2. You can, at worst, you get a birdie and you move on. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Unless you hit this shot out here with your QB good, you're going to end up in the fairway. And with lower developed clubs, you have to be in the fairway. And I found that out the hard way because I came out here the first time in the practice qualification round on Monday with my lower developed account, EM6, and a Titan. Okay, and I came out into this area and I bridged this gap just barely, and I got over into this area and I went for it, and you got a short iron shot, and that's pretty awesome. So I thought, okay, hey, let's see if we can replicate that. And the second time I came here, I caught the flat here because this transitional edge goes like this. Here's the fairway, and then it rolls off on the edge, and here's the rough, and I caught it right here, and it went straight forward. It actually overshot because now you're starting to go downhill, and it clipped the rough, and it ended up right here. And guess what? You can't get on from right there if you got lower developed stuff. So I ended up having to shoot over here to give myself at least a look at it, and ended up getting a par on a -1 hole. This is a -1 hole. You have to get a -1. That's the minimum score on this hole. And you can get the minimum score out here with a QB and a Marlin and get up. So I'm not going to do this shot because that's too big of a risk. You cannot afford, when you've got lower developed clubs, to ever get a par, a 0. That is bad. Okay? As my nephew says, that's no bueno. So -1 is the minimum score. So I don't care if I get an eagle, great. Woo! But if I don't get an eagle, it has to be a -1. So I'm going to shoot out here with my QB. Now I'm going to bring a bigger ball just because I can get a little bit more distance here and give me a little cleaner look and get me past the sand so I have a straighter in shot. But it'll also, I'm going to see what it looks like with a Titan. I know you can get it in with a Marlin, but I'm going to bring a Titan. I just want to see what it looks like, see if it puts me deeper into my club. Titan. And I'm going to take bag number 2. QB. Let's see if we can get this rolling. Rolling. 1.4 times 1.5. It's 2.1. 1.4 times 1.75. It's 2.5. So I'm going to hit my backbone. 1.4, 2.1, 2.5. And I know that there's some kind of elevation here. It's probably downhill. Everything on this thing seems to be downhill. 100% accurate club. Right down the middle of the fairway. 3.1. It's 3.1 rings. Hit it perfect. And just rolling down the middle of the fairway. Got plenty of room on either side. If I hit that shot great to the left or the right, 2 rings great to the left or the right, I'm still going to end up in the fairway with a 100% accurate club. It's a pure layup shot. It always baffles me when people are doing pure layup shots and they bring their extra mile. You are not married to your extra mile. Your extra mile is for hitting straightforward, pure power shots, not for hitting layup shots. If you're hitting a layup shot, 99 times out of 100, you're better off bringing a more accurate club. There are some layup shots that you're doing with your extra mile because it's just you're laying it up way down there. The more distance you get, the better. So that's when you bring out your extra mile. But when you've got a narrow fairway that you're hitting through, or you've got a distance issue, if you can hit with your quarterback, it's always better to hit with your quarterback. And I'm not sure exactly what my opponent was doing other than just hitting into the rough. And if they have lower developed clubs, they may have a difficult time getting on from there. Okay, backbone. There's min club. There's max. So I'm right at max. Let's see how close I can get to my rings. There is a little bit of a wind adjustment to make here. Right at the hole, 3.9. I'm going to do a 20% wind adjustment. So I'm going to count that as 4.8. There's 4.2. That leaves me 6. It's almost 3.5 rings. Hitting it perfect. Let's see if I got my wind adjustment right. Just a bit outside. Let's see which way the wind's blowing to see if I underpulled or overpulled. The way the wind is blowing there, I overpulled. I'll go back and watch that video, and I made a note to myself here. I overpulled on that, so I need to look at the wind there. I did a 20% wind adjustment, and that was actually probably a 25% wind adjustment the way I was counting it. But I was a good cup or so off, so that was way too much. It might have been like a 10% wind adjustment. The first thing I do when I come onto these holes is I try and establish what club and what ball I need and where does that put me. And sometimes I go out there and I get into a spot and I'm like, I really don't like the next shot. So then I'll explore another shot. And so it may take me a day or two to figure out like, hey, this is the club, this is the ball, this is where I'm going to go. And then once I get that down, then I start working on wind adjustments. And the reason is that if I start working wind adjustments in an area that may not be the area that I'm actually going to hit to when we get into the opening and the weekend round. So I don't try and get married to a certain spot and go, hey, I've already been hitting that spot and I've already been working wind numbers. I'm still exploring like what's the best way to come at this? What's the safest way that gives me the best opportunity to pick up a shot? And so once I go, okay, this is the pony that I'm going to take. This is the way I'm coming. Then I start looking at trying to get a consistent land zone on my drive. So I'm always in the same spot so that the next shot I can really start to practice. And then I start looking at wind adjustments. And those wind adjustments are only going to work if you're in that same area. That's why if you watch other people's videos and you see, they talk about, well, on this hole, you do a 10%. Maybe. If you're in that same area with those same clubs and you're doing the same exact thing, then yes, maybe that's exactly what you should start off with. But if you start hitting perfect and you're doing, so on that hole, like right there, if you start doing, let's say you were doing a 10% wind adjustment and you always end up to the right, the wind there was blowing, which way was the wind blowing? The wind was blowing this direction right here, and here's the cup, and you always end up to the right, and you're not pulling out enough wind. You always end up to the left. You're pulling out too much. And so you're going to have to change those numbers. Don't fall in love with a number and say, well, this person said you do a 10%, and I keep doing a 10%, and you just keep doing it over and over and over again, and you keep ending up in this spot. Okay? If you hit a perfect and you end up in a spot, go back. This is why it's really important to record your own gameplay. Go back and make sure you made a right wind adjustment. And if the wind adjustment that you made was correct, and you ended up to the right, then you should have taken off more wind. But maybe you'll find that you didn't make the wind adjustment right and you calculated the numbers wrong. So like when I go back and watch that video and I do the numbers, I'll work the math and say, okay, this is where I ended up based on that. so that it'll help me try and dial that in. All right. That was hole number 4 of the 2019 Christmas tournament and the opening round of the rookie division. Thanks for watching.